Hey guys, and welcome back to day 31. I was just talking to Peter about negativity. He's in the other room doing some work. And what we concluded is negativity is infectious. So I saw this thing on Instagram a few days ago. Essentially, you have one rotten lemon, and then it's like a little fish tank essentially, but it's not filled with water. So you put one lemon next to another lemon, next to the rotten lemon, right? And what will happen is the rotten lemon will slowly infect the lemon that's next to it, and then that lemon over time will infect the other lemon. So I think Peter and I previously talked about this. Humans are wired for risk because we have to stay alive. So often we're quite good at seeing the dangers in something, or if you want to try a new idea, why that thing that you want to do may not work out. The challenge is, in order to make progress as a society or even as an individual, we have to take risks and we have to try things that most likely are unlikely to succeed. And over time, as we keep trying things, yes, we'll fail many times, but something will eventually work because as you try things, you learn. If you don't try anything, you cannot learn, which means you cannot make progress. So why Peter and I were talking about this is previously, I want to say maybe 1-2 years ago, Peter had this habit of being very good at identifying the flaws in anything that we wanted to do, and he would always voice his concerns. And then one day I sat down and we chatted, and I asked him, I think this is what Peter told me. He said, you said it's not okay, sorry. So I said to Peter, and I can't remember this conversation. So Peter is recounting this to me, even though his memory is terrible. He somehow remembers this conversation, which means it must have been quite impactful or meaningful to him. But what he said that I said is, I said, it's not that I don't recognize that there can be risks or challenges with what we're trying to do, and what we are trying to do may fail, but I still choose to try, because if we don't try, we don't move forward. So everything I feel that I have tried to summarize in the past 30 days is kind of what I told Peter, even though I don't remember. So it in some ways makes sense because I'm now summarizing all the learnings I've had recently. But Peter's been telling me I've been telling him this for a while. So I'm having my own brainwave moment. And when someone is continually negative, when it's not asked, Peter says it's framed as realism. Oh, I'm just being realistic. The new thing that you're trying to do is really unlikely to succeed because you have no experience. You don't know what you're doing. Look how many other coffee businesses there are out there, and you're trying to open another cafe. It's not going to work. And where Peter makes the distinction between negativity and constructive criticism or even feedback is when it's invited or not. What usually happens is someone will have an idea. Say Techie wants to open a cafe, and I'm going about, hey guys, I'm going to open my cafe. I'm so excited. This is going to work. And I'm filled with positivity. And then Peter comes over. This is an example. And he's like, oh, you don't have any experience running a cafe. You haven't run a business before. You don't even know how to make a coffee. There's no way this is going to succeed. So Peter says if someone does that, he frames that as negativity, because Techie didn't go up to that person and ask, hey, what do you think about my idea of opening a new cafe? And if someone then gives their feedback and their opinions, that is more, it's been invited. Someone has asked for it. So if the person is sharing it, it makes sense. It's kind of what you're taught in primary school. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all, but we'll adjust it a bit. If you don't have something nice to say and someone hasn't asked for it, maybe think twice about whether you should say it. Because in this world, again, it is easier to not do something than to do something. And it is a lot easier to provide criticism than it is to actually try and put effort towards doing something. And again, do not take advice for people who are not where you want to be. Social media is such a crazy place now because it gives you access to people around the world who would otherwise never have an opportunity to speak with you, which means you get opinions from everyone. And this reminds me of one thing that I've read so much of. And again, it's within the past, I want to say 6 months and a year, that I've realized something that has changed my mind. So previously, when I had an idea, I would go and try and test it with everyone. So Peter and I previously were interested in doing a more traditional tech startup kind of thing. And one of the things you need to do with a tech startup is you need to validate your idea. So let's say I want to create an app that helps people deliver foods from restaurants to customers at their homes. Then you go ask people, is this an issue for you? Is this an issue for you? Blah, blah, blah. And you pretty much find a problem until there are enough people interested who want your product, then you go and build it. And that's like the basis of doing it. And Peter and I have tried doing that for a lot of the things that we've done. And I've finally realized I'm not the type of person that should be asking other people or asking a lot of people, what do you think about my idea? Because everyone is going to have a different idea. And when you ask everyone what they think of your idea, I feel like that's where my ideas go to die, because I'm quite rejection sensitive. So as soon as I hear a negative comment about it and I kind of semi-believe it's true, I'll fixate on it and then I just won't do something. And for me, this extends even further than just asking, what do you think about my idea? It's even for me telling people I'm going to do something without having put any substantial steps in place to do the something. And if I tell too many people, oh my God, I'm so excited, I'm going to do this thing, and I haven't put any substantial steps in place, the likelihood is I'm going to find some reason not to do it later down the track because someone's going to say something to me, or I'm just going to run out of the dopamine. I call it the dopamine train. When I have a new idea, I hop on the dopamine train, and working on it gives me continual fueled stream of dopamine because I find it really interesting. And then at some stage when the dopamine starts to diminish, I'll jump off the train. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do that thing anymore. Which is why before I started doing this fashion brand, and now like I'm very committed to putting this fashion brand out and really trying to make it work, because we've made some substantial investments in terms of like hiring a designer. We're about to start producing some of the things. And once there is money on the line, it's what I told you guys yesterday, or was it the day before? If you had bet 100K that you had to achieve something by the end of the year, would you put effort towards trying to achieve it? And the answer for me is yes, because now that I have money on the line, I'm going to haul my ass and do whatever I need to try and achieve the goal and make the business successful. So the point that I'm trying to make is that criticism is one of the easiest things to share. You can always find a reason why anything will fail. And that's one of the conversations that I've had to have with Peter. I told him, even if I took anyone who's successful now and you see them as successful, who's built an amazing business, and I have the same chat to you and we have them as a reference point in terms of you have the exact roadmap to get there, Peter will probably still find some reason for it not to succeed. But one thing Peter has been so amazing at doing is the self-reflection, that's his type of personality. So now what he practices or intentionally tries to do, if he doesn't have something positive to say, and again, this is not like blindly taking risk and seeing a huge issue and not raising it. This is more like day to day, you can always find something to criticize if you want. He will now choose not to say anything, and that's actually a better outcome for both of us, because I will still try. And again, when I try, then Peter tries, and then it is a cycle of doing, and through doing, regardless of whether you fail or succeed, you learn, and from the learning, then you're able to make another better decision, regardless of what that is. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Elaine Gu. She is a freestyle skier. She won the Beijing Winter Olympics 2022, and she is, I want to say, one of the most intelligent people that I've seen. So she does a press release, I think, after winning her medals, and one of the reporters asks her, not to be rude, but can you explain to us how you think? Because you are so thoughtful about what you say. I want to dive into your brain. And for me, that is one of the craziest questions I think anyone has asked. And also the fact that she was able to answer it so eloquently she talks about neuroplasticity, the fact that your brain can change. And the fact that you know your brain can change, that's really empowering because you can now change how you see the world, and that is totally within your control, so long as you choose for it to be. Which ties back to what we talked about yesterday, metacognition, thinking about what you're thinking, why you're thinking, what you're thinking. And the ability to just introspect and actually shift the way you think is probably the most fascinating thing that we can do. Because you can do this anyway. It doesn't require you to have any special equipment, to be in a certain place, or to have a certain amount of money, which means it's free for everyone to do. And that's one of the most fascinating things. The one thing I will say though, I do feel like maybe you need a certain level of intellect and comfort to be able to do it. Has anyone seen Maslow's or heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? For those who haven't, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a human motivation and psychology theory, where at the bottom you have really basic needs like food and shelter, and at the top you have more sophisticated needs like self-actualization and like self-fulfillment, essentially. And you need to satisfy the lower level needs before you can satisfy the higher level needs. And I honestly think it is true. In order to be able to worry about what my purpose is, how much fulfillment I have in life, you need to have your lower level needs satisfied. If you don't have enough food, you don't feel like you have a roof over your head, you don't feel safety and security, you're going to continually worry about those things whilst you try to achieve them, and that means you have no time to think about other things. So that's the one big caveat. Next on my list is the tiny home movement. So I think I've told you guys before, but I used to work in a corporate-ish office job, and then this was in Australia, and then I decided to quit, and at that point everyone around me was getting very big mortgages to buy houses, and that's what like our age group of people were doing. But I decided I did not want that, so I went and bought a tiny 27 meters squared, which is like 230, I want to say, square feet apartment, renovated that and stayed in there. Peter moved in with me. It was just literally us two and Chai, our little dog, and it was enough. It wasn't like a huge space, but it was enough for what we needed. And it was just so contrary to what everyone was doing. It cost a fifth of the price in terms of mortgage, and I had enough savings, so I didn't have to keep working a job. Peter kept working because I just met him at that stage, and he's like, this crazy guy who just quit his job and has this tiny house, and I'm going to move in with him. So that shows you that Peter is also very crazy. So a lot of people, I've said this again, people are surprised by Peter and I in terms of our personalities. We're now in a quad relationship, things like that. But really, this should come at no surprise. Since a young age, I have been doing crazy things, and Peter obviously does not think I'm that crazy that he was willing and happy to date me. And now we have two crazy boys who are dating each other, doing crazier things. So do not be surprised if more crazy things happened. I feel like you guys should be, it's just like, if you look statistically at the type of crazy things we've done, for example, doing naked oil wrestling in the desert, then going to the desert to live for a week. Is it really that shocking that we are doing what we're doing now? I don't think so. If anything, I think we've like toned down and become more mild. But anyway, so the tiny home movement. I bought a little tiny house, and where that was actually inspired by was van life. So what van life is, it's similar to the tiny home movement, but rather than getting a small apartment, say a small sized apartment, you get a vehicle and then you fit it out and it's like a house. Think of like a caravan, but often people buy their own vehicles. It could be like an old ambulance, an old army truck, and they fit it out how they want. And I saw it about 5 years ago, and I'm still seeing it now. And why I'm raising it is because I saw a Instagram reel about someone doing it today. And it reminds me why I chose to do it is the same reason I think many people go out on this adventure. One is, for them, van life is different to tiny home apartment life because you have the flexibility to drive your van wherever you want. Some people literally do cross-continental trips. There is very little rent to pay. And if you're in a job which you can work remote, or you're like a freelancer or something like that, that means you can essentially work from wherever you want, when you want. And to not, like, this movement, I'll call it, is incredible and crazy in many ways, because I'll analogize it to Peter and I being in a quad relationship. What's normal for society is for you to either buy or rent a house and to live in one place. You go to work and you come back to that house. What's normal for a relationship is to be in a two-person relationship, usually between a guy and a girl, and the two of you get married for as long as you both shall live. Amen. So the van life community just makes me take a double take on my own life, because it shatters the perception and the reality that you have to live in a certain way, which is to be in a fixed house. As our quad relationship, I think, has shattered my perception previously that, I have to be in a two-person relationship, even though I was previously like more open-minded about it. So it's super interesting for me that van life is one of those things, the movement, which is shifting mentally and socially what life has to be like. And in many ways, you can actually just save up. Let's say you wanted to. I was considering this at one stage. I really was, but I decided I didn't want to be stuck in Australia, because I'd just be driving around Australia for ages. But just building the whole van, being able to design how you want, live in it, that sounds amazing. Honestly, if one day I'm kind of bored of what I'm doing, I wouldn't mind building a van and then driving it around. I take that back. I'll probably be bored after 2 weeks, because I feel like now I'm stuck with the car, but I could park it somewhere and then just travel somewhere else. Maybe one day, if all goes to plan. But anyway, what I wonder is, what other things in life are we so fixated on that, because history has told us that is the way it needs to be done, relationships, that you need to live in a house. I think another one is like how we work jobs. Jobs are usually 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. There's a requirement of what that is supposed to look like. I'm wondering in like 100 years, 200 years, how is that going to shift, and is it going to be substantially different? The interesting thing about van life is that you have a home, but that home is movable, but all your belongings are still there. Whereas a traditional house requires like a land title, or you need it to rent from someone, and you need to be stuck and fixed in that same place. And usually the government regulates the government regulates land, because that's how people use it. Otherwise it'd be out of control. But now imagine if everyone shifted to having a vehicle home instead, and no one really lived in physical houses anymore. That would completely change how society operates. And I don't think everyone is going to do that, but these are the slow cultural movements, I'll call them, that are going to slowly change how the world is. And the people who do this, they obviously love it, because one day they're by the beach, the next day they're in the forest, the next day they're at like a lake somewhere. And they get to choose what their life looks like each day. Obviously, there are trade-offs in terms of you don't have a physical place to stay. They have to find parking to park their homes. And maybe community is another trade-off. You're not necessarily around the same group of people that you want to be. But that being said, the creator that I saw just today, he has convinced his friends, and now his friends have built their own tiny homes, and I think there's at least 2 of them. They travel around together. It looks like there's 3. I think his tiny home has like 3 or 4 beds, so it can actually fit a lot of people. So I really wonder what else will change in society, or what other movements will start to cause changes in society. The best part about these movements is that I don't think people do them with the intention of trying to start a movement. People are just trying to live a life that they want to. For example, the tiny home people, they question, why should I be paying $400 for a mortgage or rent a week, when I could just save for a few months, invest that money into a vehicle home, and then that is where I live, and I can save the rest of my money. My outgoing regular expenses are reduced, and I still get to live to the level of comfort that I desire. So movements are usually always inspired by authenticity, at least the type of movements that I've talked about. Holy shit, yeah. I think movements are always, I just sat and just thought for a few solid seconds, that movements, I think, are almost always inspired by authenticity, to hold true to your own values, to live the way that you want and not the way that others have told you. If we even think about civil rights movements, people fighting for their rights because they believe that that is what they deserve, that is what is true to them, rather than accepting the status quo. So movements generally are about disrupting the status quo, pursuing authenticity and the values that are true to you. And through doing that, the world changes. And I think, based on my personal opinion, I think the world always changes for the better. When we stop doing things a certain way because that is how society and history has dictated it, our world becomes better for it. Yes, that is my conclusion. Holy shit. I think I can't say so many swear words in one episode, but like, holy effing shit, that is like a brainwave moment for me. Yeah. My God. Okay. On to my next topic. Today I was walking Chai in the morning and I saw people cleaning the drains. They were shoveling dirt out of the drains because obviously when it rains, the dirt rushes into the drains and then after a while it plugs up the drain. So they were cleaning the drains and they were digging. And then there was when you get to the bottom of a pile of dirt, it's very hard to scoop the last bits with the shovel because there isn't enough dirt and it's all spread across the ground. Then there were two guys. One guy was holding a shovel. The other guy just took off his slipper and started using that to scrape the dirt, and it worked. And it just was a what the hell moment to me, because in Australia where we had a garden, I would have gone to the garage, gotten a broom and then slowly swept it all up. And what it's made me realize is I'm so accustomed to doing things a certain way, like, oh, we're at the bottom of the pile of dirt, let's get a broom to sweep it up so it's easier for the shovel. But that guy just used whatever resources he had available. Like, technically you could use your hands, but he took off his slipper and it was just like balancing on one foot, crouched on the floor in an Asian squat whilst using the other slipper to move the dirt. And that worked. So resourcefulness is probably something that you can learn. And that experience has just taught me to be so much more resourceful. Like, what do I need to do in my life that I could be doing in a simpler way with what I already have? Again, rather than following the structure of what has previously been established in terms of the way of having to do something. And the last thing I want to end with today is some motivation that I saw. If anyone feels like they want to achieve or do anything, this is the funniest thing that I've seen in a while, but also it was just so impactful. So again, on Instagram, they said, do you think Cinderella gave a fuck that she only had until midnight? No. Bitch went to the ball anyway. Stop waiting for perfect timing. Do you think Dora knew where the fuck she was going? No. Bitch got lost every episode but still got there. Lock in. Do you think Moana knew how to sail? Bitch got in the ocean and figured it out on the way. Start before you're ready. And then the last one I'll read you is, you think Scooby needed to stop being scared first? He was terrified every episode. Still solve the mystery. Do it scared. And somehow they've taken Disney characters and turned them into inspiration, which has been really the theme for me this past week and this past month, which is just do it. Do it if you're scared. You don't need to be ready. And yesterday I had the thought to myself, if you can get better at doing things before you are ready, that is where you will learn and grow the most. With the exception of, I want to say, strength training and weightlifting, take that in a guided approach. I feel like when you have physical injuries in your body, that is a different kettle of fish. Don't try and go lift some ridiculous weight before you are ready to lift the weight. But everything else in life, when you're trying to achieve something, do it before you're ready. Do it scared. Do it even if you don't know if it's going to succeed, because by doing, you learn, and through learning, you make better decisions, and that is how you live the most fulfilling life. So I think that is it from me today. And actually, I'm going to leave you with one quote from a poem, which I cannot remember what it is, but it says, "Do not go gentle into that good night," which means the good night is death. We're all going to die. Don't go gently into it. Live a good life. Live a life that is full. And a life that is full means doing things. So go do something today that excites you. Bye, guys.